Mic check, mic check. Sound better?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. How do you hear yourself?
I hear myself well.
Okay, last time wasn't so good, right?
First, well, I don't remember. We did this twice, remember?
Yeah, that's right. Okay, well this time I can definitely hear you. Alright. Alright, let's keep rock and rolling. What up, everybody? Welcome to Legacy TV and the Convo podcast. And today we're back. And this one, I got something special for you guys. Not only lately have I been able to bring a couple of my good friends and people that are my friends that are fighters back and that are fighting coming up soon that have been to the show already. But this is a good friend of mine who, when I was younger, if you guys have not seen the podcast, refer back and see my brother, one of the best criminal defense attorneys, and was actually my criminal defense attorney back in the days when I was kind of messing up. And I've had him on the show. And today I brought my brother, one of the best criminal defense attorneys in Los Angeles for over how many years, brother?
I've been doing it for 22 years now.
22 years of being in and is it all been in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
All in Los Angeles, where there's some crime going on down there. I got my brother, defense attorney Arash Hashemi, on the show today. Brother, thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
I didn't even tell you this something funny before we get started. YouTube, I'm sorry, okay, guys. I'm gonna stop cussing. I'm gonna become what you guys want me to be. I'm joining the forces of not cussing now. But anyways, so let's get right to it, bro. I brought my brother here today because I know a lot of you guys are wondering what's going on, and we're just gonna get straight to it. I know you guys are wondering what's going on with the P. Diddy situation. It's viral. It's every day on the news right now. That's all people are talking about. And before we get right in there, for those of people that have not seen our show before, real quick, Arash, could you briefly go through your educational history as what it took and what was your desire to become an actual criminal defense attorney, like defending some of the most dangerous what's the thought process as you're growing up? Like, I want to defend criminals. Like, that's what you're doing ultimately, right?
I wanted to be a basketball player. I wanted to play in the NBA. And I was in the 8th grade, I think, and I was talking to this family friend who was a doctor whose med school buddy was a Lakers doctor. And I would talk basketball with him all the time. And one day he tells me, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, I want to be in the NBA. I want to be a basketball player. And he said, I think you should be a lawyer. And I go, what? He goes, I think you should be a lawyer because you like to talk and you like to argue. You should be a lawyer. I never thought about it, but something clicked in my head and I wanted to be a lawyer. And the only thing I knew about lawyers is what I see on TV, like, the criminal defense. And it fascinated me. I wanted to be, that's what I wanted to do because it sounded exciting and glamorous. And that's all I wanted to do. And I didn't think about doing anything else because something in my head clicked and that's how I did it.
At what age was this? Like,
I think I was in the 8th grade.
Wow.
Yeah.
So from right then, you knew that's what you wanted to do. Was there, let me ask you this. I don't mean to cut you off. Was there a particular case or something that had happened at the time that, or a particular criminal that you were fascinated? You just
no. He just said you should be a lawyer, and something clicked in my head. And I remember watching TV shows and stuff, and and even today there's lots of TV shows about lawyers and criminal lawyers, and it was something like, oh, that sounds cool. I want to do that. Yeah. And that was it. And I've been doing it.
It's pretty crazy. These days people are so fascinated with criminals, with mobsters, with gangsters. Yeah. The best movies like The Godfather and Scarface. People are so fascinated by that life. You see a lot of people that have spent multiple years in prison now, all coming and doing YouTube and becoming super popular. So I feel like, especially America has always been fascinated with criminals.
Yeah, I mean, the Wild Wild West, you got Billy the Kid, and I think it's part of history.
It's part of the culture.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to do it, because some of my clients are fascinating to me, not because of what they did, but how they think. Yeah. So, yeah, to me, I live a movie. I live every day of my life is a movie. I'm actually part of the movie.
I'm sure there's probably been over the years some clients that you've had that you were like, man, I don't want to help this guy. This guy is terrible, right?
Yeah, there have been, but you know,
like you morally, like, do you sometimes like have to fight? Like, because I was talking about a situation on a prior podcast, and like sometimes do you have to like battle with yourself, like even though you know like this person has done something terrible, but this is your job at the end of the day. This is how you feed your family, so you have to take some of these cases. But sometimes have you been there where you're like, man, I'm almost ready to not do this?
Two different people. Me the person and me the attorney. Me the person would never condone what this person did or even think about it, but the attorney, it's not my job. It's not my job to judge them. It's my job to make sure that the rights are met. It's my job to make sure that the government who's prosecuting them follows the rules and the laws. So that's my job.
And then if they're and also a part of your job would also be that if they are found guilty, and if they are guilty, to like as having a criminal defense attorney help you in getting a better sentence than whereas if I'm just a regular dude going in there with a public defender.
Yes, in a way, because when you get a criminal defense attorney, he gives his time to you exclusively, where the public defender, it doesn't mean the public defender doesn't know what they're doing. They just don't have the time to invest in you because they got 200 other people. But yeah, sometimes people hire you not because they want you to help them beat the case. They know they did it. They know that they're going to do some time. They want to help you they want you to help them get the least amount of time possible. So yeah.
Makes sense. Have you ever had like a situation where like one of your clients has gotten upset at you and like blamed you for the outcome? Because I imagine I've seen some videos on YouTube and stuff where the clients like start lunging at their own attorney and stuff.
Right.
Have you ever ended up in a situation like that yet?
Thank God it's never happened to me.
God, yeah, seriously,
it actually happens more in family law cases, from what I see when I hear. Yeah, usually if you're dealing with criminals. When I say criminals, I mean professional criminals, the people who are in the game and this is what they chose. They know. So they don't blame other people because this is the life they chose and they know the consequences. They want you to do your best to try to help them to lessen the damage. So I guess it does happen sometimes. To me, it hasn't happened. I hope it never does. Because I tried my best to do what I can for them. And then I tell them, I don't sugarcoat stuff. I tell them, look, this is what's happening. This is what you're facing. This is what we can do. And this is what we can't do. So,
and, there's been some monumental cases along the years. Like, for example, one of them was Christopher Darden.
Right.
And I spoke to you about this. I told you he was my attorney back in the day. So just a quick question on this. First, he received a lot of scrutiny because he was on the original O.J. Simpson trial. Chris Darden was on the prosecutor's side, and because he was a black man, he received a lot of backlash from his community because he was going against O.J.
Right.
And like I had a friend of mine who's a brother of mine, and we talked about it and. His opinion was like, well, why should he? That's how he feeds his family. That's his job. He's not the judge. He's there to do his job, and that's it. And it's unfair of people to judge him for that.
Right.
And so there was another situation that happened just a couple of years back. We were talking about it, where Nipsey Hussle was killed in L.A. in front of his store.
Right, and he represented
and Christopher Darden represented Eric Holder.
Right,
which I spoke to him recently. He then withdrew from the case because he was getting death threats, and he's just like I don't want to be, I can't be a part of this.
Right.
Do you feel that's like something that happens often in that world where there's criminals that when you go to defend them, you receive a lot of backlash from their families, like because I'm you know what I mean?
It depends on the case. So the cases you mentioned were famous cases. Like OJ was one of the most famous cases in the history of not just LA or California or the US, but I think the world. And then the Nipsey Hussle case, that was a case that had a lot of media attention because of Nipsey Hussle, because he was the one who got murdered. So I think the more the case is in front of the media, in front of the people, the more scrutiny you're going to get. Yeah. But if the case is just
But do you think he did something wrong? I'm asking you personally. No, because would you represent a person like if you? That's what I'm saying. Like morally, as your job would it have whether I was wrong or right? Do you feel like he was in the wrong? Because from what I'm thinking and what I'm hearing from a couple of people that I spoke, I don't think he was.
I don't think he was in the wrong either. He was doing his job. He decided to take the case and defend them like he would any other person. And he
shouldn't be criticized.
Yeah, he dropped out because he didn't want to deal with it. It doesn't mean he did anything wrong.
Right.
But yeah, I agree.
So okay, cool. I just wanted to touch on a couple of those little things while I had you here, bro. Recently, the biggest case that we have of our time recently, and we don't even know all the full details yet. But one day, we wake up to the viral news of like 1 million, federal agents, whatever, FBI, I don't know what it was. All kinds of police and big trucks, and they just dive into. I think they pull guns on Diddy's kids, bring them out the house, and they just raid all his different spots.
Yeah, so he gets raided. He gets raided by the federal government.
So it was by the federal government.
The federal government. No charges have been filed yet. He hasn't been indicted yet, but it's coming down the pipeline from what I see, what I hear on the news. I'm sure other people realize this too. It seems like they're gonna bring charges for sex trafficking, maybe drugging people, forcing them to have sex, things like that. So it's gonna be serious charges. I don't know how many counts. I don't know what's gonna happen. And then at the same time, he's being sued civilly by other people that said, mostly women, that they say he forced himself on them, he sexually harassed them, and then he that famous video that came out with his ex-girlfriend in the hotel where he just
I was gonna get to that too. Let's not get there yet. Okay. So before this video comes out, first this happens. All the house ratings and stuff like that. So at that time, he was being accused of already of the trafficking and all that stuff. Is that why they because let me ask you this for people that because you know the law better than most people, and some people don't. They had to physically get a search warrant, correct?
Right. So yeah.
So there must have been some type of charges being like. They have to have a reasonable doubt, correct? There has to be something.
No. So reasonable doubt is a standard that's for trial. So in order to get the search warrant, they need to have probable cause
of a crime being committed.
Yeah. So they have. I don't know. They haven't released it, so we don't know what the search warrant or the probable cause is. But apparently, they have some sort of witness or evidence or something that says something shady is going on. So in order to investigate further, they need to search warrant. So they go to a judge. In this case, it's probably a federal judge, and they say, look, we believe that something is happening. We believe these crimes are being committed. We need more evidence. In order to get the evidence, we need to search this premises, and we need a warrant for it. So the judge looks at the evidence, sees if there is probable cause, and then if he believes or she believes that there's probable cause, signs off the warrant. Now, the warrants could be very specific, or it could be general. So if I'm looking for like a pill, and my warrant is to search your car, I could search your car anywhere where a pill could be, right? But if I'm looking for an elephant, and the only place in your house an elephant could be hidden is this large room, I can only look for the elephant. I can't go looking in the drawers for the elephant. But it seems like the warrant they got for him is just a warrant to search everything. So it's whatever they believe is happening, warrants a search where they have all these agents and coming in and just raiding him. Yeah, ran through everything.
I was looking earlier at some of the the video footage of the surveillance of them going through the stuff, and it looked like they went through, like they tore his house apart.
So apparently,
wires hanging, like
if they're trying to find him or trying to find evidence of sex trafficking, they're going to go through everything. They're going to go through bank statements.
Okay, describe what sex trafficking, the definition of sex
trafficking.
So
the very broad definition is, transporting people in order for them to engage in sexual acts for profit.
Right.
It's the basic definition of it. So basically, they're saying that he was like, had sex slaves, for lack of better terms, and he was running a sex trafficking ring. Wow. Like if you wanted some sort of, you have a special need, he would provide it to you.
And he probably had like as much money as he had. He probably had a high, if allegedly he had a high clientele and all that stuff, and he's super famous.
So he has connections. Woo. Yeah, it's gonna hit.
That's big right there.
Yeah, it's gonna hit the fan.
Oh boy, is he in trouble, man? The first thing comes to my mind is when you have that much money, why put yourself in this type of like God took care of you, set you up. Well, it's first of all, it's insane. Like
I'm only assuming, but I think you get to a point where you think you're invincible.
Right.
You think you've achieved this level of fame and fortune
where you can do anything,
and you're untouchable. Because whatever it is in your head, you think that, this is, I'm Diddy. Nobody's going to mess with me, So, it gets to your head.
Okay, now let me ask you this. All these people coming out of the woodworks all of a sudden. Now, these people, where have these people been? Now, as like all of a sudden something comes up and then they're, oh yeah, he did this to me. He did this to me. It seems like all these people are coming out to try to get money from him now, out of nowhere.
So is this like some of it could be bogus, some of it could be real. Like, people could generally have been scared and just they've been threatened, and now they're like, okay, now that we know, or people could have thought, well, nobody's going to believe me, but now they're going to say, they feel more comfortable, or it could be just like, hey, I want a piece of the action too. Yeah, I want a piece of the pie.
So that's what I'm saying. Think about all the people that he had been around that could just make up a story. That's what I'm saying. Is there has to be some type of proof of this?
There has to be some type of proof, and
because I could, if I hung around, I could say, hey, he did that to me, right?
Well, some people are saying that they have videos. They're going to come out with videos. Oh. One video already came out that we briefly touched upon, the surveillance video in the hotel.
We're going to get there now. Yeah.
So you do need some sort of evidence, because if it's his word against someone else's word,
right,
then it's just, a toss-up. So you need some sort of evidence. Like if it's his word against someone else's word, but someone was a witness, then it's stronger. So we'll see how many of these lawsuits that are brought against him are legit and how many of them aren't. As of right now, you would think with all this stuff that's coming out, most of these lawsuits are legit, but I'm sure one or two of them are just trying to, or maybe exaggerating. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to straight up lying, but maybe they're exaggerating.
Those aren't the ones that are going to stick.
Yeah, those aren't the ones that are going to stick. At this point, though, he has bigger things to worry about than those.
So then this happens. Then a few days after, out of nowhere, just coincidentally, this video comes out. I woke up and I see, like, I don't remember if it was TMZ reporting or who it was, but we all saw it. He's running out of the hotel room. She's running out. He comes up behind her and he socks her. She falls to the ground. He kicks her, drags her back to the room in his towel. And then he's screaming and sitting down. Like, your initial thoughts, like, when you see this, as far as what he's already got going on, like, from a criminal defense attorney.
It's not good. First of all, that video is older, so he can't be charged with any of the crimes in the video. Okay, and from what I understand, it was a civil lawsuit and it was settled. So as part of it, they couldn't talk about it. But the statute of limitations on the crimes has passed because DV, battery, whatever it was that you could, if you see the video, there's so many different counts. But the statute of limitations has passed, so they can't file on him. In fact, the LA County DA's office came out and said we can't file on him because these statutes have passed. I actually did it on my social media. I talked about it. So one of the reasons it came out, I think, is because maybe, and I'm only assuming, maybe the statute had passed. Part of the settlement was that, we're not going to talk about it. But then that might have led to an investigation or something. But it can't hurt him criminally.
It can?
It can't.
It can't.
It can't in the aspect of charges being filed.
Right.
It can hurt him as evidence of showing his prior bad acts and who he is.
And who he really is.
And who he really is.
Yeah.
In his character. And if someone else says, yeah, he did that to me, and it's his word against their word, that video is going to hurt him because it's going to say, look, he did this already. So what is this? What is to say that this person accusing him is not telling the truth? Because he did this to one person, he could have done it to another person.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
Yeah, so it's gonna hurt him for future cases, but for that specific incident, he can't be charged because the statute of limitations has passed, unless they get creative and think of a crime that has a longer statute and file something on him on that. But off the top of my head, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, unless they bring up some Tupac Biggie stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we're not even gonna get there. But okay, so all right, I get it. So he's basically like, all right. Tell me this. Let's say you got the phone call tomorrow. You get into the office. You walk up there. It's Diddy. Hello. I got more money, but I got a lot of problems. Like, what do you like? How do you go about defending like this type of situation?
First, I would sit him down and talk to him and see what's going on.
And he'd have to come through and tell you the real.
He wouldn't have to, but he should.
Yeah.
And whatever you say to your attorney, even if you don't hire that attorney, it's confidential.
So even if I told you, for example, I committed this crime, I did it, but they can't prove it, you can't ever turn your back and be like, man, he told me he did it.
If you tell me in the setting of attorney-client, no. If you come to my office and tell me about it, and you decide
it has to be in your office.
No, it could be in any setting, but you come to me as an attorney to get my opinion as an attorney. I can't talk about it.
Okay,
right. But if you tell me as over beers as a friend, then that's a whole different thing. I could be called as a witness. But if you're saying it in the attorney-client thing, I can't talk about it.
Right.
Or if it's happened, let's say there is a cold case and you killed someone and you're the murderer and you have the gun. You come and tell me, hey, that cold case? It was me. I have the gun. I buried it in my backyard. I can't tell anybody about it because it's already occurred. It's in the past, right?
Right.
And you're telling me as an attorney, I need your help and stuff like that. And then you end up not hiring me. I still can't tell anybody about it.
Okay.
But if you tell me, hey, I'm thinking about killing so-and-so, then depending on the circumstances, I might have to. I might have to tell about it.
That makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. That was good. That was good to just cover that. Okay, so Diddy's like, all right, man, I'm coming down to LA. If
Diddy comes down, I'm going to sit him.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell me everything.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm going to tell him, this is what I can do. This is what I can do. This is how much it's going to cost you. You tell me if you want to hire me or not.
And for Diddy, it would be like a little bit more pricey, right?
Because
it's gotta be, right?
if Diddy comes and hires me,
yeah,
I'm going to have to clear my whole caseload to work on Diddy's caseload because it's going to be big, right?
Right.
So, it's going to cost him more money because if I'm working on his case, I can't sell my time to somebody else.
That makes sense. Yeah. Now, let's say he is found guilty of, like, let's just say, like, there's more stuff, but let's say the sex trafficking type of thing. Like, is he like washed? Is he going? Is that like?
So it depends on what he's charged with. In federal court, what you're charged with, what you're guilty of, they have sentencing guidelines which say that if you're found guilty of this is the range. Okay.
Right.
Laws have recently passed where judges are allowed to go beyond the below the range. So let's say they got you for possession with intent to distribute of cocaine, right?
Right.
And it's more than 10 kilos. So you're facing 10 to life, right? The judge could actually come down and give you less than that, but you have to go through a process. It's a point system, right? You have to show that this is your first offense. You really didn't know about it. You're not the main character. You're not violent. All this stuff, and the point system brings the guidelines down.
Right.
The judge could even go below that, but if you can't meet the guidelines, the judge is going to give you something in between the guidelines, and depending on what he's faced with, he's going to be looking at some, I would think, considerable time because of everything that we hear.
Right.
But we don't know what he's facing yet, so we'll find out.
So that's the crazy. Is there a certain amount of time that they have that they'll release his charges and we'll know everything?
Well, once if he gets indicted,
yeah,
the indictment might be under seal. So we won't know exactly what he got indicted for, but at some point, I'm sure they might ask for the indictment to be unsealed, and then you can see everything he was indicted for. Damn. And then you'll see what he's faced with. Yeah,
that's pretty crazy, man. Yeah. And I'm sure you would be able to get him a good deal. You hear that, Diddy? You gotta reach out to my boy.
There you go.
But yeah, it's tough, man. Money, like he says, it's kind of crazy to think about the man's career. What up, everybody? Want to take a quick second out of the podcast just to give a shout out to our sponsor, the best criminal defense attorney I know. The last time I got in trouble, I needed somebody that was going to look into my case and actually fight for me and get me the best deal possible, and he did that. And I'll make sure that he does that for you. Make sure you shout me out if you guys reach out to him. They're the sponsor of the Convo. You know anybody, a family member or yourself that make a mistake, you want somebody like him on your side. Arash, please let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Thank you. Arash Hashemi, 310-448-1529, or HashemiLaw.com, HashemiLaw.com, or just Google hashtag Better Call Hash. Remember that, Better Call Hash. You'll find me on every social media channel all over the internet. 310-448-1529.
You better call Hash. And all the things that he's gone through, with, bringing out, just becoming a producer and finding, someone that will be considered one of the best rappers of all time. And then, making other successful artists and TV shows and just getting all this money. And then full circle, it comes down to the road towards like you're getting a little bit older, and now look at what you're facing. And then,
it goes back to where we talked about all those successes that he's had. Maybe along the way got to his head thinking like, I'm invincible. I can do what I want, or I can do and people won't know.
Just like I did, even though I wasn't as rich as him, but just like I had, from when I got young and I got older, and I was like, oh, it's no big deal. I'm not doing anything wrong.
Right.
And then you do a little something wrong, and then boom, there it goes. And in this case, it doesn't look like something little.
No, it looks like he's going to be facing some considerable charges.
Yeah, brother. I feel like one thing that I respect a lot about you lately is when I see your social media, you're spreading a lot of knowledge, and especially like for people that are getting in trouble and living that life. It's good to know your rights, number one.
Right.
And I feel like many people don't know their rights.
They don't.
And if you guys do want to start to learn about your rights and stuff, like you guys can follow my brother here, and he's always got content on his page. And where he talks about, different rights that you guys don't normally have, like, examples of like, when you get pulled over, what to say, what not to say, when you're walking down the street, if a cop approaches you. Like, I think it's very important that every human being should know their rights, because a lot of police do take advantage of the fact that you don't know your rights.
Yeah. The other thing that people should know is how to interact with the police. Sometimes the minimum traffic stop could lead and escalate into something larger because of how you interact with the police officer. Because remember, they are trained to think that whoever they pull over is going to kill them.
They got to be careful.
They got to be careful. Yeah. So you got to be, because honestly, you can say what you want about them, but they want to go to work. And they want to go back home to their family. They don't want any trouble. They don't want, but they got a job to do. So they're trained to be careful. And if the person isn't acting right, it might lead to a misunderstanding, and it could blow up, and it could be bad for both the police officer and the other person. So knowing your rights and knowing how to interact with them, even if you think they are wrong, is important, because don't fight them on the scene, fight them in the courtroom. Right?
And always remember, we talked about this before, because even me, like even though I didn't say anything, when I did get in trouble, almost it's coming up to a decade now, almost. Yeah. Oh, another thing I was going to ask you, before we cut this off, limitations on crimes committed as a person when you were younger. So, for example, my first time getting a felony with a strike, I was in my early 20s, which is more than 20 years ago. You were an adult. If you're over 18, you're an adult.
okay, and it goes on your record.
Right.
There's some new laws that have passed that your record automatically clears with other stuff, but it stays on your record. Like if the FBI goes through your record, they can still see everything.
Right, but what I'm saying is, for example, let's say I'm a human being that has, you know, a strike, and I've had a firearm possession, and it's been past 10 years on both cases, and
Right.
I haven't got anything, and I become famous.
Right.
I'm super famous, and I'm like, man, I want to protect myself. I'm not hurting nobody. Is there a possibility for someone like me to be able to get?
You would have to get your gun rights back.
And
right,
that
you would
is
have to
possible,
see.
though.
You would have to see if you have your gun rights and see if you can get it back. It's possible, depending on your charges. Like if you get a DV charge, even if you later get that DV charge expunged, and California gives you back your gun rights, federally you won't be able to get. You won't have your gun rights. So
it all depends.
Yeah, I get a lot of people who are charged with the DV case, and they're like, "Look, I want to join the army."
I haven't been.
Or I actually get recruiting officers saying, "Look, we got this person. He has this DV case, and he wants to join us, and we have a spot for him, but he can't have this DV, so
Right.
you got to help it go away." So, yeah, it's
Possible.
It's
Things
possible.
are possible,
Yeah,
especially after a time of making the changes.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So look, for example, let's say you do something wrong now. You clean up yourself. You clean up yourself, and after like 20 years, you do something else wrong. The courts will see that you've had 20 years of being clean. They won't hold it against you as bad as if you do something wrong now and a year later you do something wrong again.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Crazy, bro. I really want. I think being more in tune with what's going on and what your rights are will help a lot of people. And also, when you start to realize like it's just not worth getting in trouble, it'll knowing your rights also will make you think like, man, I don't even want to do anything to have to worry about exercising my rights.
Exactly.
But brother, thank you. I know a lot of people were wondering about the P. Diddy case, so we wanted to make sure that we did that today and talked about that. And so the way it looks right now, it's not looking good for Diddy. And we're going to see how it all plays out.
Yeah.
Well, you guys heard from yourself, one of the best criminal defense attorneys around, kind of spoke on the case. And, I want you guys to do something for us. I want to have Arash back. A lot of you guys out there probably have a lot of questions, different questions about your rights, about, different situations. Go ahead and leave them in the comments. And then, I can, if there's a specific case or something that you guys want to ask about or whatever, put it in the comments. And then the next time we'll have Arash back, we can talk about, something like that on the next one. But, brother, thank you. Everybody can get a hold of you if they need an attorney.
You can find me online. You can just Google Better Call Hash and you'll find me, or you can my name Arash Hashemi, ARASHHASHEMI. Google that, you'll find me. HashemiLaw.com.
HashemiLaw.com. Y'all check him out if you guys getting in trouble. You got somebody that's gonna be on your side and actually help you out and get it done the right way. So make sure you guys look after my boy and hit him up for all your needs in that realm. He sponsors the show and looks after us. Guys, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Like, subscribe, and tell a friend. See you guys on the next one. Peace.